Hey there everyone, welcome to D&D Doge's Emporium of RPG Horror Story Cringe, and happy Friday. In today's episode, we have a tale about a player that can't separate fact from fiction, a story about a Dungeons & Dragons party that's just a tad too paranoid, and much more. But first, a special message from Lucky, the like and comment kitty. Thanks, bud. But with that said, let's get right into these stories. Player called me racist, then quit the game. By Reddit user Crucial S. So, I was DMing a game for a few people I met on a Discord server, and one of them did not like the fact that some NPCs in my game were acting a bit racist and untruthfully towards Dragonborns. There was a reason for that, and I will tell you about it. So, in the world where our story took place, there was a big problem with dragon attacks. For the last thousands of years, dragons were absent in this world. They were just a legend, a myth that not many believed in. Suddenly, a few months back, dragons appeared in great number. They were not wise and peaceful creatures that were protecting this world, as many of the legends said. These dragons were angry and bloodthirsty. Many cities were burned down. People died, and basically the whole country was in chaos because of that. Some people started spreading rumors that Dragonborns are conspiring with these evil dragons, and they want to take over the kingdom with their help. Some people pointed out that all Dragonborns have ancient dragons as ancestors, so it's obvious that they will conspire with the dragons. Now, that was obviously BS. Most of the lords, important merchants, and wizards, basically all highly educated individuals, did not believe it. But simple folks from villages and small towns, merchants, and sometimes city guards, etc., did believe. And so, this started many incidents of people openly showing their distrust towards Dragonborns. One of my players, let's call him Mark, really did not like this idea. At first, he just showed in character how his player character is openly aggressive towards every character that does not trust Dragonborns. I thought it was just an in-character thing, but after the first few sessions, he DM'd me to tell me that he does not like where this is going, and how unfairly I am treating our cleric player. Now, I should point out, this guy wasn't playing a Dragonborn, he was playing an elf. The only person that was playing a Dragonborn was our cleric, and he was intrigued by this idea of mine to create a conflict between different races. Cedric decided that his character will try to prove that Dragonborns are not evil, and will try to help everyone as much as he can. I explained to Mark that I'm not trying to do anything against our cleric, and I even like the way he's dealing with it. I also told Mark that, hey, it's a fantasy world full of different species. Sometimes, someone will be racist towards someone. So, that was the end of this conversation. We had a few more sessions, and Mark DM'd me again, asking if Cleric was talking to me about this racism thing. I told him no, he wasn't, and asked if Cleric was talking with him. It turned out that Mark was telling the Cleric that he should talk to me about it if he feels that I am not treating his character fair, but it looks like he decided not to. So, the final session of the story came, and the party was trying to get into one of the cities. Everything went fine at first, but then city guards wanted to search Cleric's belongings as a routine control. They also were showing that they don't trust the Dragonborn. After scattering all of Cleric's stuff on the ground and checking if there was no suspicious items, they told him to pack all of his things up and move on. They then told him not to try any funny business in town, as they were watching him. And it was at that moment when Mark flipped out. He left the game and stopped the session. He then DM'd me that he had had enough and he won't be playing with such a toxic DM. He also told me that I'm a racist, or I am promoting racism in D&D, or something like that. Before I could say anything, he blocked me and everyone else except for Cleric. He then tried to convince the Cleric to talk to me about it once again, But when the cleric started to explain to him that he actually liked my idea, Mark just blocked him as well. At the end, I just want to say that I'm not a racist person, and I do not promote racists or anything along those lines. I also have nothing against Cleric as a player or Dragonborn as a race. All of this was just part of the story that I thought would be an interesting addition. And also, I had some ideas on how to use it to develop the plot of the story. TLDR. Player flips out about some NPCs in the game being racist, calls me a racist, and leaves the game. Honestly, Mark did overreact, and it's a bit of a reach to call OP a racist just for having those themes in his world. Fiction has always used themes to make a commentary on our real-life societal issues. Dragon Age and even Star Trek are the first to come to mind, as they had themes in the past that could be an allegory for some things that happened in real life in the past and even present. Now, if you do plan on having themes like this in your game, it's usually best to bring all of that up in a session 0 to see what all the players would be comfortable with tackling. And upon looking in the comments of the story, it does look like OP did have a session 0 where he mentioned that this would be a theme, and no one said anything about it, so he thought it was fine. Do you have themes that hit close to home in your games? If so, how do you go about handling it? Be sure to let us all know in the comments. But let's move on to the next story. I love my group. This is just a small rant about something overall benign, but still something that infuriates me. My table is one paranoid party. By Reddit user, see you, Space Corgi. Again, I love them to pieces, and I wouldn't leave them for the world. But, goddamn, it's become a whole Rube Goldberg machine of paranoia whenever we stumble across any new character. Every time that there's a figure on the side of the road while we're traveling between towns. Rogue, can I roll to sneak? Ranger, I draw my weapon. Wizard, I want to have my familiar go forward to investigate, and I'll go into a trance to experience their senses. Every time there's an interesting NPC at a tavern who's literally just some guy we've never met before. Rogue, can I roll to sneak? Ranger, I draw my weapon. Wizard, I want to have my familiar go forward to investigate, and I'll go into a trance to experience their senses. Even if we meet a new PC who's clearly not going to have the motive of pulling a sneaky on us and performing a TPK. Rogue, can I roll to sneak? Ranger, I draw my weapon. Wizard, I want to have my familiar to go forward and investigate, and I'll go into a trance to experience their senses. Stop being so paranoid. If our DM has tried to have a character kill us, they've never done it this way before. We have no reason to slow the game down by acting so cautious all the damn time. I've tried talking about it in and out of game, but each time, it falls on deaf ears. It's one thing to be cautious in a game of D&D, especially in areas known to be treacherous, but to be overly paranoid at every turn can get to be a tad tedious, and like OP said, it can slow down the game. I'm sure that the random NPC just enjoying a drink at a tavern isn't out to destroy the party. Or is he? Let's move on. My friend is getting bullied through his game. By Anonymous. My friend doesn't have Reddit, so I'm posting on his behalf. I DM for him, but the group in question is from another game that he's in. Keep in mind, this group is online and with fellow adults. He's basically told me that over the course of this game, he has had 4 characters die, and they've only played around 10 sessions. 2 of the deaths have been at the hands of other players. One was during PvP, and the other was that the players basically threw his character off of a cliff, with no saving throw required by the DM. The DM has targeted him every session, and has had every enemy in combat focus specifically on his character, and refused to let his character roll saving throws, and said that he failed saving throws the other players passed, even though he got higher rolls than them. Plus, his DM rolls their death saves, and my friend's character almost always gets all fails or a natural 1 every time. Every time he dies or his character gets hurt, the entire group, including the DM, finds it incredibly funny. When the other players aren't killing him, they're messing with his character in other ways, like trying to take their things, making NPCs attack their character, or beating up the character. He's told the DM that he feels like he's being targeted, and the DM basically told him to grow up because it's funny. My friend is also autistic and isn't always great at picking up on cues. He wasn't totally oblivious, he just thought that he was overreacting, since one time after they killed his character, he got upset and left, and everyone in the group told him he was being dramatic and to grow up. I think they were basically gaslighting him into thinking that he was being the childish one, when they're the ones acting like middle school bullies. Really, their behavior is exactly like bullies, messing with someone, saying it's just a joke, and then finding it funny whenever the subject of their torment gets upset. The group that we're in together all told him to block them and not to play with them, and to distance himself from them. But he's a bit nervous about the prospect. He knows he has to, he just doesn't like confrontation. I feel really bad since he's a really nice guy, super funny, and an awesome player. I genuinely think that this group has had it out for him because he sometimes struggles with social cues, and obviously refused to make accommodations for him at the table. I think because of this, they just thought that he was weird and a good target for their power trip. Right now, I really want to help support him in dumping these guys and giving him an actual good supportive group to play with. Wow, that is really messed up. And the fact that these asshats are adults makes it all the worse. You need to get him out of that game, because it really sounds like they just have it out for him, and that they're possibly only playing the game to get their jollies by messing with a neurodivergent person. Since they are online only, and your friend is a bit cautious with confrontation, I would say offer to message them in his stead, and tell them off. There is no reason anyone should have to deal with people like that. Though, that's just my suggestion. What would yours be? On to the next one. Haha, I need to roll to pee. Oh wait, you're not joking? By Reddit user, Kirsty Blue. This is more of a WTF story than a true horror, but I'll say it anyways. I was playing D&D with 6 or so people from my board game club that I knew somewhat well. I had missed the session the week before because of real life stuff, but I thought I'd gotten up to speed with a short recap from the party. Needless to say, I was wrong. At some point in the session, I needed to relieve myself, so I got up to go to the toilet and let the DM know what I was doing quietly. Cue everyone staring at me like I was crazy, with one party member asking, "What do you think you're doing?" I respond with, "I'm just going for a pee." And the party member responds, "You need to roll for that." I laughed, thinking that it was just a joke, and started making my way out anyway. But everyone continued to glare at me, and the DM told me to stop, telling me that I needed to roll. I came back to the table and rolled. It was a 2, of course. I laughed again and tried to leave one more time, but both the party and the DM were insistent that no, that meant I wasn't allowed to leave. So I sat there, visibly uncomfortable for the next 10 to 20 minutes. My character wasn't doing anything relevant anyway. I wasn't focusing on what was going on before deciding, F this, I'm going anyway, and the RNG gods aren't stopping me. Nobody stopped me that time, but they gave me dirty looks when I came back, in the same way you would if someone had tried to, say, split the party. I ended up leaving the campaign a few sessions later for unrelated reasons, and I'm still in that board game club. But seriously, WTF? Why would OP even consider going back to the table after being told that they can't go to the bathroom if they didn't roll for it? I would have just told everyone there that they're insane if they think that I need permission to go relieve myself like a kid in elementary school, and that they can wait the 2 minutes for me to get back. I can understand taking the game seriously, but this is going a bit far, almost cult-like. Let's move on. And, as it's Friday, it's time to cap off the week with a glory story. A DM who likes to win gets beat. By Reddit user Victorionami. Edit. I am new here, and this may not count as a horror story. Looking back, we may have been the horror players, but feel free to let me know if this counts. I just discovered this sub exists, and I really want to share one of my favorite stories. This took place back before the turn of the century, and my friends and I were still in high school at the time. We were playing Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, Vampire the Masquerade, and Immortal. Really, anything we could get our hands on. We had short attention spans, so most of the time, we'd play a game for a few months, get bored, and change it up. We all took turns DMing, so there was a constant desire to try something new, and there was no shortage of opportunity. Though this story takes place at the start of a new Advanced Dungeons & Dragons game. We go over to our friend's house. Let's call him Eric. We all love Eric. He is a great person, but not the best at DMing, and really not a great role player either. He has the imagination, but he gets on these power fantasy trips where he wants his characters to be almighty, with godly powers, and gets truly upset when his character doesn't win or isn't the best. Despite all this, we play because he's our friend and we do love him. Eric gets up from us poring over tomes and making characters to get snacks or go to the restroom. While he's gone, the three players begin to plot. At this point, he's already told us the basics for the story. The three of us will be led through a dungeon that he created by his self-insert character, a paladin who is at least 2 levels higher than us and decked out in ridiculous magic gear. There is no point for our characters to really be there, as this guy could potentially solo the dungeon. Me with a sigh. I hate it when he plays characters like this. I mean, it's not even an NPC. Sam, who is easily distracted. Why don't we just watch a movie? Greg, who is normally not the devious kind. We should just kill his character. With that, the light bulb appears, and so we plot. We have come up with a secret backstory for our characters. All three of us are from a local thieves guild, and we took this job and are pretending to be strangers for the one and only purpose of murdering this paladin and stealing his magic gear. I play the traditional rogue, Sam the thug fighter, and Greg a cleric of the god of thieves. We wrap up our planning and finish our characters. So Eric runs his one-shot dungeon. It was a truly harrowing night, in which we let Mr. Paladin take the brunt of the damage. Eric is more than happy with this, as he gets to be the hero and show us how badass his NPC is. After hours of playing, we beat the BBEG, though I don't remember what it was. We the players are at a fever pitch because we know where this is leading. We've been role-playing our little hearts out, and even dropped some hints throughout the game that we may know each other, or have histories beyond meeting that night. Eric doesn't notice this, as he is so wrapped up in being better than our characters, and ever so lightly rubbing our faces in it. We escape the dungeon, and are standing in the graveyard afterward. The paladin is giving a monologue on his accomplishments, and how we wouldn't have survived without him. This is when I backstab him. The real last fight is on, and Eric is shocked. We jump the paladin and slaughter him, and as we stand over the body divvying up the loot, our characters begin complimenting each other on our fine acting and talk about heading back to the guild, leaving the paladin's corpse to rot. Eric was distraught. He was furious. He argued that we couldn't, that we shouldn't, until he finally broke down and started laughing. We played the game that he rigged and won, and I was proud that he took it so well. We had many truly wonderful adventures after that, but those characters never made another appearance, as they served their one and only purpose: to deliver a big slice of humble pie. TLDR, the players plot the downfall of a DM that was on a self-insert power fantasy. Now, the reason I chose this as today's glory story is because, while it started out with all the makings of a horror story, in the end, everyone had a good time. And for a DM that wants to win at D&D, this is an example of what winning D&D as a DM is like. But that will do it for today. As always, I appreciate all of you, and I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Until next time.